Hey there, you're listening to Not Another TV Podcast. This is episode 104, the week of March 1st, 2026. My name's Drew Koenig. With me, as always, my co-host, Mads Possessi. Mads, we are back in a year
we are.
with a number that should not be real.
That is true. I needed a mental health break, and honestly, I don't know if I helped myself by having a mental health break, because I feel like we're still in it.
Yeah,
But that's the world today.
that is the world. But yes, we have been off for the last 3 months. I don't know how time works.
Mm-hmm.
It's been 3 months. I don't know. We recuperated a little bit.
Basically, we did our end of the year list, and we skedaddled for 3 months.
We did skedaddle, which is okay. But we did kind of recuperate, recharge the batteries a bit. We come back to you all. Is fresh the right word? I don't have another word for fresh, but it doesn't seem to describe us.
Rejuvenated.
Sure.
Rejuvenated is a nice word.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've recalibrated.
We have recalibrated, and that is the important part that I would like to stress here.
Things are looking a little different.
Yeah, things are looking a little different. I know. Look, you all are gonna say, Drew, it's crazy to change a format 3 years into the run of a podcast. But that is what we are going to be doing. You all know the typical structure of our podcast has been: we'll do some news, we'll do some goats, and then we'll have a full rundown of 7 to 10 TV shows. So we'll review in earnest. We're not going to be doing that anymore because, quite frankly, we're tired and it's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
As much as I loved doing that, I think it was a lot of fun, and I wish it was still possible to do that.
There's just too much going on at the same time at all times now.
So we're going to be doing a more traditional format that is easier to do, and will hopefully allow the podcast to be stronger, both for the podcast and for us, and allow a bit more stability going forward in what we're able to do. And also like kind of flexibility in a weird way, because I do think at least I got to a point where it was like, cool, we got a list. Thou shalt not stray from the list. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Now what we will have is, we're still going to have the news and the goat and yada, yada, yada. But instead of the rundown that we have been doing, we will instead, as I said, have a more traditional format of a main review and 2 mini segments decided by myself and Mads. I think this is if you've listened to my previous podcast shows, this is a format that I am very fond of, that I think works really well.
Yeah, when you presented it to me as an alternative, I was like, oh no, I like this so much better. It's a lot less stress on me because I am a serial completist, and so I feel like I failed anytime we did an episode and I was like, I didn't watch half of the things on the list this week. It's just like, oh man. And then my brain was like, you are a failure and you're terrible.
Right.
So this is much easier.
We're gonna have less weird forays into shows like Dimension 20 and Adventure Time that we had, or like here Drew watches a weird one-off show on Netflix or whatever on streaming. We'll have less of that. We're still gonna try to figure out something for Dimension 20 going forward. But I think this is gonna work out really well. Speaking of Dimension 20, Mads, you and I have had a fun past couple months. You and I've been running a D&D game together. Has been my first time DMing and your first time playing.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
It's been very interesting. Very fun.
I'm learning a lot, which is really great, because like my thing that has kept me from playing D&D for so long, like I'm talking since high school, is that like I always felt like I was intruding trying to ask someone to join a game when I've never played before.
Mm.
And I didn't want to feel like I was ill equipped or dumb or whatever, you know? And then you were like, hey, I'm starting up a game and it doesn't matter if you've played before because we'll teach you along the way. And I'm like, absolutely, let's do it. And it has been great because you guys are helpful. I'm like, I can ask a question and be like, do I do this? And you're just like, well, maybe if you want. Like, it's just been a lot of good learning for
Mhm.
me. So that's good.
Yeah. Yes.
Positive learning.
Yes. Yes. And it helps that our players are two of the most helpful people that have ever existed on the planet.
Yeah.
Very eager to explain things in a good way.
Yeah, and one of the other players is one of my closest friends. And so like I can be like, "Hey, Lindsay, can I do this? Is this something I'm capable of doing as my character?" And Lindsay will be like, "Yes, to an extent." Or, "No, you can't do that right now. You have to wait." Lindsay's very good at like I can text during a game to ask a question and they'll respond.
Yeah. Yeah, so it is it has been a blast. It's been fun for me realizing what running a game is, which is just frantically making something up on the fly.
Also, anyone that knows Drew would be delighted to know that Drew is taking a lot of leaves from Lost's book to create elements in this campaign. There is a hidden island. There's... No, we definitely tease you mercilessly for the amount of Lost references we get on this campaign.
That's true. That's true. I mean, we had a ship that was attacked by a kraken, and we landed on a mysterious island that moves on its own. Some things I do to myself.
And a cult of volcano people.
A cult of volcano people. Yes, it's been so much fun. But yeah, it is fascinating to learn that like, oh yeah, you can have the plan. The plan is useless though. The plan is useless as soon as one character says, "I'm gonna do X," and you go, "Cool."
Well, crap.
Well, crap. Let's catch up on some news real quick, where a lot has happened in the last 3 months.
Yeah, a lot. A really awful a lot of things.
Yes. So let's begin. I was gonna say we're gonna start with the downer note, but it's all kind of a downer note. Let's start off with there have been a lot of people that have passed away over the last 3 months. James Vanderbeek, Robert Duvall, Eric Dane,
Catherine O'Hara.
yes. Eric Dane, I think, was the one that like didn't catch me off guard, but it was sad because we did see it coming.
Yeah, so Eric Danes was more of a situation of, oh, I didn't realize it was going to happen that fast. James Vanderbeek, it was kind of the similar thing. It was more of, we had seen him at ATX in June. And so I was like, I think he's doing a little better, like I was thinking like the treatments were working. And then bam, they're like, no, he's dead. And I'm just like, what? Okay. Like I knew it was happening. It was going to happen, or like I suspect it was going to happen, but like I thought he was getting better. Robert Duvall, okay, no offense, guy, like you were older, whatever. Catherine O'Hara's was the one that was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It was very
I'll say Catherine O'Hara and Robert Duvall were the ones that got me of like, because like Robert Duvall seemed very, and then,
yeah,
yeah, and then Catherine O'Hara was like, oh, this is truly out of left field.
Yeah, hers, I literally was depressed for an entire week, unable to function. Like I just was like, I'm sorry, that's not possible. Like she cannot be gone from this world. She just shaped so much of who I am with all her various roles over the years. And it was a situation of Schitt's Creek when it started was so small that like that fandom kind of started as like a family of sorts, and then of course it blew up in 2020 when it hit streaming. But before it blew up, like those of us that were there before it blew up were like very close. We had a sort of like community going on, and it just felt like we were very in connection with the actors because they also did these like events throughout the country, and we went to them and got to meet them and stuff. And like I met Catherine O'Hara for like 2 seconds in Minneapolis, I think it was. No, Milwaukee. I traveled to Milwaukee to meet them at this event. We'll never go to Milwaukee again, but that's neither here nor there. And I met her, and so like this is one of the first like celebrities that I'm like, I've met you, and now you're dead. Like this is just like surreal to me. It still doesn't feel real to me at all. Especially tonight being the Actors Awards, and like they keep mentioning like, her performances on the studio, and I'm just like, this can't be true. Like she's still here. Like that's not true.
No, I did with Eric Dane. I had a had a thought that like almost instantly depressed me of like I wonder if Grey's Anatomy will do something with his character. Forgetting that his character died many, many years ago.
Is dead.
Yeah.
And did you see that he died on the anniversary of his character being introduced?
Oh, that's rough.
Like that's insane to me. Like I was like, what? And then this past week, Grey's Anatomy came back from hiatus, and they were like, hey, guess what? We're gonna throw a tribute to Eric Dane at the end of this episode. And the tribute kills me. Like it's so beautifully done. I was like, this is how you honor someone who was a big part of your legacy and still be respectful about the fact that he's gone. Like it was just so beautifully done. And it showed that the show still respects who Eric Dane was for the show, but also who that character was to the bigger universe of Grey's Anatomy. And yeah, it's just, I really feel for his daughters, because this was something that he had said in multiple interviews that he's like, I just don't want them to have to grow up without me. And then 10 months later, yeah. Insane.
Yeah. It was a weird journey, just like from doing this podcast, seeing him on
Brilliant Minds.
That and the whatever the fuck.
Oh, the show he did with Jensen Ackles.
Yeah, the show that pissed me off.
Countdown.
Doing Countdown and then going to Brilliant Minds. I was like, oh, the trajectory is sad.
Did you watch his final interview on Netflix?
I didn't, just because I thought that would bum me out.
It's actually, there are moments that are sad, but it's very insightful to his thought process, and also just like the kind of person that he is outside of the work that he does as an actor. And so like it was a very interesting conversation. I saw a lot of people commenting that like it just seemed like a horrible cash grab, and like why would they do this? And I'm like, you do realize he signed up for this, right? Like he didn't do this against his will. Like what the people on the internet are just miserable. I've come to that conclusion. But no, I thought it was a beautiful interview.
Yeah, I know a lot of people accused it of being exploitative, but no, yeah, this was something fully within his agency and control, and I think it's nice to almost like give someone like Eric Dane like this kind of like weird time capsule, like this little.
The only other one they've done in this series was with Jane Goodall when she died at the end of last year, and it was really good too. I liked hers. She was funny, and as someone who's a big proponent of disability advocacy, it was great to see them offer that up to Eric Dane as someone who has disability and unable to fully be in control of his own body. And I think that gives awareness and visibility, and I think that's a big proponent also as to why he did it,
right?
To give more visibility to ALS.
Speaking of Netflix.
Oh, Netflix.
So Netflix had a bid to buy out Warner Brothers. Why does Warner Brothers need to be bought out? A question that may never be answered.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Why is that necessary? Who's to say? Probably because David Zaslav is the devil. Or I would have said he's the devil before the Ellis.
But he got fired, didn't he?
I think he's still on. Did he? I thought he was still.
I thought they got someone new. Or maybe I'm thinking of a different corporation.
I think Disney got a new CEO.
Oh, Disney. You're right. It's Disney.
Yes.
You're right. But I was thinking wrong corporation.
Yeah, David Zaslav is still very much running the show over there for now. Paramount put in their own bid for Warner Brothers, which exceeded Netflix's, and Netflix decided to not up their bid, which is probably the right move for Netflix. they get a nice little $2 billion out of this for
Yeah,
doing nothing.
bump from Paramount. They're like, "Oh, you decided not to counter our offer. Here you go. We'll give you $2 billion."
Yeah, and all they had to do was nothing.
Yeah,
That's
it's not good for the general public, but it's great for Netflix.
yeah, it's a free $2 billion. You know what? Hate the game, can't hate the player.
Yeah.
So it looks like for now, and I mean I've said this before, but any number of things could end up happening. It does look like Paramount is going to buy Warner Brothers, which is a disaster. I was saying this when we thought that
Yes,
Netflix was going to buy it. Netflix would be bad, and make no mistake about that. They don't care about the
but it's the
theatrical
lesser of
experience.
two evils.
Paramount being in control of Warner Brothers is a disaster that we cannot properly prepare for.
I don't think people realize just how conservative the people behind Paramount are.
The Ellisons are
Yeah.
some of the most evil people that exist.
Yep.
But even if the Ellisons weren't bad people, and they are, even if Keith and David Ellison weren't bad people, the monopolization that they would have would still be horrific. Even just on a basic level, they would now have CBS News and CNN. And for anyone, that would be bad. And if that anyone also happens to be good personal friends to Donald Trump, that is exponentially worse. But also, just like the amount of franchises and properties that they would now own, and media corporations that they would own, HBO and HBO Max.
Yeah, I mean, like you look at the Paramount streaming service, and you look at all the different types of programming you get under the Paramount umbrella, and then you add the stuff under the Warner Brothers umbrella, and it's like there's nothing left besides Netflix.
Even I'm going to make this an even more basic one, right?
And Amazon, you've still got Prime.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'm like even on a more like even more basic than what I've already said. Paramount would own Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon.
Yep.
And I want you to like take a second and really think about how bad that is.
Yeah.
For animation. And then I want you to expand that and go, how many other likewise entities and properties would Paramount own? And think about how bad that is. So
yeah, you remember in history class where we talked about monopolies and how bad they are for the economy and for the general public? Yeah, that's what's happening here. We're going ever so speedily towards an entertainment monopoly, and that's not cool. That's not good.
Yeah, it's bad. I mean, John Oliver is out of a job.
Yeah.
Last Week Tonight is over. It's just we haven't realized it yet, but it's over if that happens. Which I think is also quite bad. And yeah, if the Ellisons get control of CNN, it's
so over.
I don't have the proper words to describe how bad that is. Speaking of Netflix, this is more in a lighthearted vein, I guess. I still don't like it. It's bad.
Yeah. I feel like I know what you're going to talk about, so.
You might know what I'm going to talk about. So, a lot of the deals between DreamWorks and Netflix expired, which has led to a lot of Netflix originals being taken off of their platform, such as I just had it, Kipo and the Wild Beasts. I think Voltron was included in this, and also, and I think this is the one that has garnered the most attention, is She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, which is a show that I really love, really beloved series by a lot of people, which had like the very important, serious lesbian rep, or at the very least queer rep, and I don't like it. That puts She-Ra in danger of being lost media, and it doesn't deserve to be. There are some DVDs out there of early seasons of She-Ra, but I especially don't like it because we're gonna get a new She-Ra from Amazon. And what Amazon might do with that coming out,
might not be so great.
Might not be so great. So I don't like it. You know,
Yeah.
we have. I think here's the problem I have. We have enough problem getting queer rep on TV and keeping that queer rep, and even if it gets canceled, it still exists. You know,
Yep.
but for a show that already ended, concluded its completed its whole story, um, and now won't be available to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Something I don't like. When again, the only alternative, because this is DreamWorks, is to go to Paramount. I think it says a lot about the news right now that this is the more lighthearted option for me to talk about. Oh, woof.
It sucks that that's the
It
lighthearted.
sucks. Um,
Because I was also thinking like this goes back a little, back to the Paramount acquiring Warner Brothers stuff. It's like think of all like because again the Ellisons suck major dick. I think about all the current projects that are going on in terms of streaming and such with Warner Brothers that like could potentially lose their quote unquote green light because the Ellisons suck and how much diversity and representation that we will lose because of it.
let's move on to something that will depress me less. Um, how much less remains to be seen. We have to check in on our New Year's resolutions. So, for those that have forgotten, Mads, you resolved yourself to watch as much Sapphic TV as you could. And
Yes.
I am making my way through the Arrowverse.
Oh yeah. How's that going, Drew?
One of us has made more progress than the other. I will allow you all to take a moment and guess which one that is.
It's you.
It's you.
I, I'm going to own up to my inability to do things. I'm going to blame it on the psychosis that I've been under for the last few months and my poor mental health. But I have watched one sapphic show in 3 months.
Which we will be talking about later, so we don't need to get into it.
Yeah. No, we don't need to get into it. But yeah, I've watched The Wilds. Haven't made much progress.
It's totally fair.
We'll see how quarter 2 goes.
Right. As for me, I'm a little over halfway through the seasons that I'm in right now. So I'm in season 4 of Arrow, season 2 of The Flash. I'm in the first season of Supergirl, and the first season of Legends of Tomorrow.
Mm. Now, so you're watching everything simultaneously?
I am watching everything concurrently.
Or concurrently,
as they would have aired.
Got you. Okay, I get what you're saying. Because they did crossovers, right?
Yeah, it did crossovers. There's a lot of the first season of The Flash is really funny because it has a typical spin-off problem of we need to make sure that people are going to watch this show, so we're going to stuff as many people from the original show into the spin-off as we can.
Yeah.
To the extent that like Felicity shows up like 6 times in the Flash season 1. And nice. I just watched an episode from season 2 where Diggle shows up, and it's like, well, you don't need to be in this episode. This rewatch was made more difficult because Netflix decided, once again, Netflix decided to take off Arrow from its catalog. So I've had to get my copies from the library, which is doable, but slow, especially when you go like, oh, disc 4 is halfway across town. No, I'm not going to get that. We're just going to put a hold and it's going to come to me. Thank you very much. But I think it has been a fun rewatch. And I think the thing that I appreciate about the Arrowverse, which I noted the last time I tried to do this, at almost any point that you're watching these shows, you have a kind of bastion of hope in one of them, you know? So while the others might not be good, there's always like one show that is, one or two shows that actually is really good, you know? So like in the beginning, you have like 2 good seasons of Arrow, and then it falls off. And then you get like that first season of The Flash, and then it falls off. And then you get Supergirl, which I do think has a good first season. Meanwhile, you have Legends of Tomorrow, which does not have a good first season. As much as I love and adore Legends of Tomorrow, its first season is bad. It is a slog to get through. But it is funny or interesting on a rewatch of just how much they wanted Arrow to both like build off of the popularity of Oliver from Smallville, right? Of Green
Mhm.
Arrow from Smallville, and go like, "Hey,
Mhm.
we got a show that's just Green Arrow. Watch it." And also, it wants to be Batman Begins,
Yeah.
and that is the function that it has of like it's trying to do these analogs. It comes in really strong with like when you have like Arrow and the Flash of like they want Arrow to be
Mhm.
Batman and they want the Flash to be Superman, right? They want it to be kind of that ideologue, right? Which is funny knowing the trajectory of the Arrowverse when you have like not a year later Supergirl and then like Batwoman. So it's like and then like piece resistance of like Superman and Lois. So it's like it starts off like trying to be this thing, and then that the the redundancy that it's trying to be becomes even more redundant as it goes along. But it's funny watching Arrow in the first two seasons, trying to be really Christopher Nolan Batman, and then like progressively becoming more weird.
Mhm.
Um, or trying to become more weird with like season 4 having Damien Dark and it not work at all. Arrow is like this weird mixed bag. I think Stephen Amell is decent. He still remains fairly decent, even if I don't like him as an actor, even if I don't like him as a person. His portrayal as Oliver Queen, I think, is serviceable for the show as like the kind of anchor for it. Emily Bett Rickards, I think, steals a lot of scenes early on in the series run as Felicity,
Mhm.
and then in seasons 3 and 4, they go, "Here, Felicity, we're gonna give you a stupid stick. Please try not to hit yourself with it," and then just ravages herself.
Mhm.
Just a show that does everything it can to make that character unlikable and annoying. First season of The Flash is, I think, an all time great. Grant Gustin is so good as Barry. Even while that first season's really good, there's a lot in it of like the more interesting parts of the first season of like time travel and a lot of like weird Speed Force running things. And you're like, oh, I remember how these things become bastardized and corrupted over the course of the show's run. I remember
Mhm.
how all of these things go really bad. So even like the really good things are like, ooh. I mean, I still really like Supergirl. I think Melissa Benoist is great as Kara. I think she's really good. She has that really fun demeanor. Um, the people who say that like Supergirl is just trying to do those people are not operating in good faith. I just can't listen to those people. You know, that
Yeah.
is not a good faith argument being made. Yeah, Melissa Benoist and Kyler Lee as the sister duo of Car and Alex is like really strong. And then, as I said, the first season of Legends of Tomorrow is god awful dog shit. It's just really bad. It's
You
just
are
really, really
God's
bad.
strongest soldier going through all of these shows concurrently. Like I could never.
Here's the problem, right? The show gives us Arthur Darvill as like basically Doctor Who. Doctor Who if he was like Harrison
Mhm.
Ford. And it doesn't work at all. It's just really bad. And I'm reminded of the fact that like the first season, the show tries to tell us Arthur Darvill is the show's lead, and you go no, and then later on, and like starting like the second and third seasons, we're like, no, Katie Lotz is the lead. Sarah Lance is the lead. Sarah Lance is our main character, if there's anyone. But getting through this like first season is so rough. It's so bad. It is a show trying to take itself way too seriously, and I'm just waiting for when Legends realizes that it doesn't have to,
Yeah.
and then just like really take off running. Um, But no, Katie Lotz is so good. Sarah is just such a fun, dynamic character. And I will also say, to go back to Arrow, her relationship with Nissa absolutely slaps. It's so good. Also a very fun character. I'm still reminding myself that I'm still in the good part. Like, I'm not in the good parts, but I'm still in the fairly easy parts, because there will come a time where I have to add Black Lightning and Batwoman into the rotation, and then it will become unmanageable. One day this will become a nightmare, but I think I'm making really good pace right now. I'm making really
Yeah.
good progress on this, so I might actually get it completed by the end of the year.
See, you're beating me because I've had this goal in my life for a while now, and maybe this will be my resolution for next year, is to fully immerse myself in the One Chicago universe, because I've only ever watched Chicago Fire and a smattering of Chicago Med. I've
Mm,
never watched PD, and I'm like, if I were to try and take on that task, it would be so hard because they do so many crossovers
right.
that I'm like, I would have to concurrently watch and look up when they started, because if I remember correctly, Med had a sort of backdoor pilot kind of situation. And so, like, it's just, it's a lot. And so, like, if seeing you succeed at it with the Arrowverse, which is astronomically bigger,
Yeah.
or at least so far succeed at the Arrowverse, makes me think maybe I could do Chicago. I could possibly do it. There's just a lot of seasons at this point, because I think we're at 14 for Fire
Mm-hmm.
and 11 for Med, which is the most recent edition. So, like, it's a lot of seasons.
Oh yeah. No, no. The moments of frustration when I get like more ahead on like one show than another. Like, if I get more ahead on like the Flash than on Arrow, and the Flash will reference something that's going on Arrow, and I'll be like, God damn it. Let's switch over to Arrow. But no, it's good. I think it's going really well. Even if sometimes watching Arrow makes me want to jump off a building, a very very tall building. Yeah, we'll check more on this later. Let's move on into the goat. Speaking of the wilds, Mads, I had you as for winning the last batch, made you watch the wilds, which fed nicely into your New Year's resolution. So, how did you feel about the wilds?
I really liked it. I I was very into it very quickly. Because when I was talking to Karen, I was like, I have to watch The Wilds because Drew and I have this like deal thing that we do, whatever. And she was like, say no more. I'll sit and rewatch it with you. And so for the longest time, her profile picture on Prime has been a character from The Wilds, and I was like, I don't know who this is. I now know that it's Leah, but at the time I was just like, she's pretty. Like, I could see she's Karen's type. Anyway, so we like are sitting here watching, and we binged like 4 episodes in one day because it was just so intensely good. I was like, no, we got to watch another episode. I was like, we got to watch another. I was like, I need to know more. I need to know what's going on, because there's just when you think you kind of know what's going on, something else happens, and you're like, maybe I don't know what's going on. But it's when I started watching, I had in the back of my head this thought of people compared it to Yellow Jackets. I remember this. I remember they came out around the same time, and people were comparing it to Yellow Jackets. And I'm like, why? This is nothing like Yellow Jackets, like, at all. But yeah, I think my favorite character is Dot. I love Dot. Dot is such a badass. Like, from day one, she's like, oh, I've watched a ton of survival shit. Let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
I became very obsessed with Dot very quickly. I also like Martha. Martha's really great. But yeah, I was annoyed with Leah at first, but she grew on me once she started to once she stopped being so like hung up on her miserable. Oh, I love him, but he doesn't want me because I'm underage and he's an adult. Like once she got past that a little bit, like I was able to like her a little better.
Yeah.
So I understood why Karen loves her. But yeah, it's very sapphic coded. I literally first few episodes I was like, okay, some of these girls end up hooking up, don't they? I turned to Karen, I go, some of these girls end up hooking up. She goes, you'll see. And I'm just like, okay. I can't stand Rachel. Rachel's awful.
Rachel, I think of like comparing Rachel to like Tony, right? Two characters who I think
Mm-hmm.
are similar, in a lot of ways.
Similar, yep.
Both characters who are kind of perpetually angry, and I think a lot of the difference is that the actors capture anger, I think, a lot different. Where like,
I also just think that Tony's more personable
right, she is more
in general.
personable. She has Martha there to kind of humanize her in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I also think it's just that Arana James hits anger as if it is something that actually lives inside her. And the actor for Rachel
Yes.
feels like, now I shall be angry, you know?
Yeah. I clocked her having an ED the moment like the moment we're on the plane and like the brownies are being passed around or whatever.
Right.
I was like, oh, she has an ED. And then like we learned more about her and I'm like, maybe I'll have more sympathy for her. Like I do have sympathy for people with eating disorders. I know it's a lot of hard mental capacity, whatever. But the more I learned about her, the more I'm just like, no, she's just kind of awful to everybody. She's
Yeah.
very much things aren't going good for me, so I'm going to treat everyone like shit. And it's like that's not how this works, girl. Like you need to be a little more nice.
Yeah, I think I have a softer spot for Rachel a little bit because she goes through it in season two.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But
I
I
didn't
mean,
see season 2. I only saw season 1. So,
I will say just kind of just an out of context because it kind of picks up from season one. But season two picks up Rachel being attacked by a shark.
well, yeah, we kind of see that in season 1. We
Um, it's
like
just
we see
very
the
funny.
at the end of season 1, at the end of season 1, but like earlier in season 1 we see that she has no hand when
Right.
they're talking to the people that rescued them or whatever, and it's like, why does she have no hand? Like I literally was like, why does she have no hand?
Yeah.
I will say I liked Nora quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
even after it was revealed that she is one of the plants. I was like, you know what? I'm still okay with this because she's a fascinating character because she truly does march to the beat of her own drum, and she, is very unique in the way she sees the world, but also she's still kind and trying her best to be there for these other girls and try to be part of the group and also look out for her sister. Like it's very clear that she loves her sister despite the fact that Rachel wants to murder her. Like Rachel acts like she's like, I want nothing to do with you because you told our parents that I am starving myself. Well, girl, you were. Like, it's like
Yeah.
I just find that dynamic the only interesting thing about Rachel is her dynamic with Nora. Like that's it.
Right. And I do think that is like, I do think that becomes the defining thing for Rachel, like, especially as you get into like
Yeah.
season two of like, well, no, I agree. Nora's so good. And I think a lot of it has to do with like the fact that we don't get to see a lot of female characters who are autistic or autistic coded.
Yep.
And especially autistic in a way that feels so contrary to like a Sheldon Cooper archetype,
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
it just
And,
feels like
and
someone who's
I'm gonna.
very smart and very personable, but just
Mhm.
sees the world in a very specific way.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll touch on autism representation again when we talk about the show that I'm going to cover later on. But it's it felt very real. It felt very lived in because as someone who is an autistic person, like I understood some of the things that some of the ways that she processes information because I was just like, oh yeah, I do that. I think like that, like she's
Mhm.
very realistic. It's very, even if you don't have autism, you can see those traits and those quirks and just be like, I know someone that's like that, or I've kind of had thoughts like that before too, but I have ignored them, or or whatever. Like, it just felt very human. As opposed to one of the things I hate the most about Big Bang Theory, which there are many things that I hate about Big Bang Theory, which is Sheldon Cooper, of it all. Like, they go over the top with the autism caricature, so to speak, and that's what happens a lot when a show decides to give us an autistic character. It's very much dramatic and big and very loud autism representation, and it's like, that's not the only way that people are autistic. And Nora is a very specific kind of autistic that happens more frequently than people realize in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that she is very smart. She does very well in school, but she struggles socially. She has a good relationship with her family. She is still social, but she has an awkwardness to her that people are kind of put off by, which makes it hard for her to have those easy social interactions. And it's something that her sister really jabs her about a lot. And it's one of the reasons I kind of want to punch Rachel in the face all the time, is because of the way she treats Nora, because of how Nora is. Like, they talk about that conversation they have about the guy that she's interested in. I forget his name. But like, when they're doing like the flashbacks and she's talking about this guy that she's interested in, and her sister's like, "Well, he's weird. He's strange. Like, you shouldn't associate with him." And she's like, "But I'm weird and strange." And she's like, "Yeah, but you're tolerable." Like, it's just like, what? Like, I,
Right.
yeah, I don't know if I would ever have sympathy for Rachel, no matter what information they give me, if I were to watch season 2. It's just, and maybe that's just me personally, just being like, I don't like the way you talk to your sister, especially because you guys are twins. Like, what? No, it's a really good season 1. They do a great job of slowly giving us the information about each of these girls, and I like when shows do that because it keeps you invested. I feel like if you try to dump it all in the front half of the show, then the second half of the show, you're like, well, what do we do now?
Right.
Like, I like tying in the current events into a way to flash back to the girl's backstory, right? Like, we get to the survival stuff, and that's how we find out why Dot is so good at surviving. We get to this, and we get to finding stuff out about Rachel, and it ties into how she's interacting with everyone around her and why she's angry at her sister and all these things. And like, I like that. I like that slow reveal of vital information that informs how you look at characters.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of what I enjoy about the Wilds is like the subversion is the point, you know, where like so
Mm-hmm.
often when you think that it will zig and instead zags, you know, where
Yeah, absolutely.
like a lot of the girls, two of the strongest characters on the Wilds are Fatten and Shelby, and I think that is because the show goes, here we're gonna give you a recognizable archetype, um,
Yep.
and going, I know exactly what this looks like, and then kind of bucking against that, where like you have Fatten, who you expect to be a kind of pat bitchy rich girl,
Yeah.
that parties a lot, and instead gives you this incredibly emotionally rich character.
Yeah.
And then giving you Shelby, Texan, so Texan, Christian blonde girl, and then
You're
going,
like, oh God, she's going to be so conservative and such an asshole. And she's not.
yeah. Instead, what it shows you is a survivor,
Yeah.
in really interesting ways. Shelby's episode gutted me.
Oh, yeah.
The moment
Yeah.
when she realizes that her friend who she
Oh,
kissed killed herself,
yeah.
and she has to go on stage.
I wanted to hug her so bad in that moment. Like, I wanted to reach the TV screen and be like, it's okay, Shelby. This doesn't define you. Like, I just wanted to give her the biggest hug and so
Mhm.
much love. Cause, like, I was like, oh God, that's so devastating.
Yeah. I just love her. I think Mia Healy is so good as her.
Mm-hmm.
And her moments of rage baiting Tony throughout the season are so funny.
Yes. Oh my God. So good.
So good. And that
Oh
relationship is
God.
just it's so satisfying.
Oh, absolutely. Like, it's very interesting because, like, we at the start, Shelby's like being very friendly with Martha because Martha is just a friendly person, right? And then Tony is just so angry at that all the time. And then it slowly seeps into Tony starts to understand Shelby a little better. And they're, the tension leads to more. And then they kiss, and you're just like, yes, yes,
Yes.
please.
Yes.
I want more of that. I want all of that.
Yeah.
And then you think about how many days they were on that island. You're like, I'm sorry, this developed in 22 days?
yeah.
What?
Listen, lesbians don't mess around.
No.
We have shit to get through.
The
Yeah.
U-Haul lesbian trope exists for a reason.
Yes, I have really enjoyed in recent months, like the ways that some of the girls from the wilds have like taken off. With like
Mm-hmm.
Arana James in Alien Earth, Mia Healy was just in a sapphic horror film.
Oh,
That
really?
yes, it was rather low budget, but I hear
Hey,
it's not
some of the
particularly.
best horror films are low budget.
Yeah, I hear it's
I'm just
not
gonna put that truth
particularly
out there.
good, but everything I've heard about it is that she was very good in it.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
and then Sarah Pigeon in Love Story right now,
Yeah.
which is also really good, and she looks incredible in it.
I've been meaning to watch Love Story, so I did not realize Sarah Pigeon is in it. So nope. Yep, I'm gonna be checking that out for
Yeah,
sure.
she's Carolyn Bizet.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense, but
Yeah.
I just didn't realize that was her.
Yeah,
Like I wasn't
No,
thinking.
she looks very different with like long blonde hair. It's very
Yeah.
wild to get your head around. But no, I've enjoyed that kind of. The first season and then like coming into the second season of The Wilds is just. I mean, you'll get to this if you ever watch the second season, but like the decision to add the boys is a disaster.
Yeah.
They take so much time away from the girls where it leads to them like being secondary players in their own show.
Oh gosh, no.
Yeah, where like a lot of what it leaves them is just fluff, very enjoyable fluff, but fluff nonetheless. Where it's just a lot of like, yeah, here's Shelby and Tony's relationship. Here's Leah having these interactions with Fatten, and it's like, well, I like all of this. It's all good, but I don't like the package that you've given it to me. But I'm glad you watched that.
I am too. I do not hate that I watched it. It was very, very enjoyable. It's definitely the type of show that I like. So I just needed someone to like push me over the threshold to watch it because it had been on my list for some time and I just kept coming up with excuses not to watch it. Regret that. But anyway,
yeah,
it was a very, very enjoyable watch.
Yeah, when I look back on it, I have such fondness for those characters, like in ways that I don't even really have for Yellow Jackets. To bring it back to that.
Yeah, and I'm someone that has a hard time connecting with female characters a lot, and I don't really know what the mind answer is behind that. I just have very rarely looked at a female character and been like, I really connect to this or I really enjoy this particular character. But this show is filled with all these female characters that I'm like, I would die for each and every one of you except for you, Rachel. Sorry, not sorry. You deserve a lot of the things that happen to you because you're just closed off and not a nice person. But like I would pretty much die for any of the other girls.
I'm not sure she deserved to have her hand bit off by a
shark. Agree to disagree on that one. And if that makes me a bad person, then I'm a bad person. I don't care. I just was just like, oh, that sucks that you had a shark eat your hand. That sucks.
We did not get to this last year. At least I don't think we did. But we have the time has come for us to do a redemption pick where we will go back through our losses, bring one back up to the front, and see if they can have their moment to shine. This is very fortuitous timing for me with my pick, which is one that I've tried a couple times, and if it doesn't work this time, I may just have to retire it.
Give it up.
Might have to just give it up. Because if it doesn't work now, it's never going to work. But my pick for our redemption round is Lexa from the 100, who was notoriously killed off 10 years ago, I think like next week, which
Mm-hmm.
was an upsetting fact to realize. But yes, I think just such a fully realized character who came out of the scene, like grabbed the show by the throat and completely owned it until she left. And I think just a character that was only in like 16 episodes or something, and just made such a pivotal, indelible mark upon it and pop culture, I think, going forward. I think she's just such a truly iconic character. And I say this as someone who thinks that the term iconic has lost any and all meaning. But I think when you go back to look at anything from that show, like I think Lexa, for me, comes so strongly to the front. You know, a war like this warlord with a heart of gold, who did bad things but wanted the best, and was often like between a rock and a hard place, and had such a weird warmth to her, in ways that she shouldn't have. And I think a lot of that comes down to Alicia Debnam Carey playing her and just being so good in the role.
Yeah.
I think I've said this before. Alicia Debnam Carey is one of the all-time best yellers on TV. Like
Mm-hmm.
when she yells, you feel that in your bones. And she's just so good at it. She feels like someone who can convincingly roll up with two swords and kill you. And she's just really tremendous. Her relationship with Clark, I think, is just kind of an all-time great. And just like her chemistry with Eliza Taylor, I think is off the charts. And Alicia Debnam Carey, I think, has like some of the most intense eyes that, like, whenever she is on screen, it feels like she is deciphering you, the audience, and I
Mm-hmm.
just I love her very much. And it's a shame that so much about her character has become contextualized through a very traumatic death, and that so much about her is, framed by the bury your gays trope and the outcry that followed that, and the way some things were shifted post her death, and the ways
Mm-hmm.
that some things have gone back. But a character that I always come back to is just one that immediately grabbed my attention when she came on screen. That is Alexa from The 100.
Nice. My redemption pick ties into the wilds because this character is also played by Rachel Griffiths, who plays Gretchen Klein in the wilds. And I'm talking about Sarah Walker from Brothers and Sisters. And much like her character in the wilds, she is a mom who doesn't always make the right decisions, but her intention behind it is what she believes to be good and right for the sake of her being a parent, the safety of her children, the safety of her family, the continuation of her family business. Like she makes decisions based on her emotional ties to people versus not always making the hard, fast decisions for business purposes. And so she's one of those characters that's very strong and very set in who she is. She knows who she is. She knows what she wants out of the world, and she's not afraid to go after it. But on the other side, she's very soft and kind because she does have two children that she loves very dearly. The story arc that the show gives her when her husband cheats on her is one of the best storylines I think I've ever seen from the show. And there's a lot of great things about this show, but I really enjoy it because it shows just how much her grasp on control in her life is so tentative because one little thing causes so much to fall apart and she starts to make more rash decisions because she's just like, I'm trying to hold on to these things that I hold dear and it's falling apart because my husband has cheated on me, and he doesn't want to be married to me, and like it's just she goes through so much from that and then finding out later on in the series that the man she thought was her father this whole time was not actually her father, which was stupid Hail Mary storyline in the final season, but I digress. Um, she just never loses her sense of self throughout all the things that this show puts her through. She is the person that is put in charge of the family business. And so when she makes decisions, she has to listen to her annoying brothers yelling in her ear. Well, we know what we should be doing because we've worked for dad's business for so long. You just swooping in and doing what you think is right. And she just has to say, guess what? I love you, but this decision we need to make. And it does end up biting her in the butt because she does try to placate everybody in a way that keeps her family happy, but doesn't necessarily do the right things for the business. And in the end, the family business fails. They have to close it and sell off everything. And that's basically their family legacy. And so, like, it's just a big mess that she ends up being the scapegoat in the center of. Um, but really, the mess was started by her father, slash, not really her father. Um, and Rachel Griffiths has this way of bringing nuance to this character and showing us that there are still personable things about her, even if she's very messy. And even though later on in the show, it seemed like she didn't quite have a grasp on her kids' lives as much as she did early on, I think that was more of a writing choice than it was a character choice, in the sense that the writers forgot how to do something with those children. You and I have talked about this many times about shows where you have child actors and child characters, and then they reach a point where the writers are like, we don't know what to do with these characters because they're just in the way. And that's kind of what ended up happening with her children, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, Sarah Walker is a combination of the man who raised her and her mom, and she has the best qualities of them but also some of the worst qualities of them, and she somehow bakes it up into this beautiful, strong, independent female character that is really easy to root for, even when she's making mistakes. Because when she makes her mistakes, she owns up to the fact that she made the mistakes, and then she tries to make them better. Does she always succeed? No, not always. But I chose to redeem Sarah Walker from Brothers and Sisters because she's just one of those characters that I still think about to this day.
So those are our those are our picks. You will have 2 days to vote once the poll goes live. And be sure to like and share it on all your social platforms. And be sure to find all of our socials at our link tree at linktree.com/not on a TV pod. Next week, in honor of young Sherlock coming out, we are going to be talking about prequels, flashbacks, stuff in that vein. And we'll decide exactly what that means in the next week or how we choose to interpret that. Let's move on into the main part of our show. So, to kick us off for this week, I'm here talking to you all not about a show. This is going to be kind of a more nebulous conversation. I have been rewatching some TV, and not in a typical way. So, there is a website called TV Tango, which has all of the previous TV lineups throughout the years. So you can go to, for example, August 5th, 2004, and it'll be like, here's all the shows that aired on that day. So what I've done is I've gone back to January 1st, 1995, and I am watching TV as it aired concurrently, right? So I'm watching, one episode at a time of Star Trek DS9, the X Files, ER, NYPD Blue, Law and Order,
Nice.
Seinfeld, Friends, Frasier, Boy Meets World, a bunch of these shows. And part of the reason I wanted to do this was because I think so much of our TV right now is so defined by the 90s, right?
Hmm.
I don't go a day online without hearing someone talk about the X Files or Deep Space Nine or Buffy
Yeah.
or even Xena, which I will also get to, I realized came out in like August 1995. So it has been a really fun almost experiment going through, January 1995 shows. I've also been watching Melrose Place and Beverly Hills 90210, which not the point, but if you want to
Truly God's strongest soldier.
yeah, if you want to talk about the like prime time soap opera of those two
Mm-hmm.
shows, Melrose Place is far and away the better show because it realizes that this is all high camp nonsense. And just goes for it. Heather Locklear is, and I mean this in the best way possible, an all-time bitch. And she's outstanding. It is really fun to like go back and watch all of these shows, and there is something relaxing about it, of TV that's like, hey, we're still in like that sweet spot of like we're still like really episodic, and we're starting to learn to be serialized. We're starting, the X Files and a DS9 are kind of creeping in there, and we're starting to learn to like tweak the formula a little bit. But we're still so much of like, hey, we got a fucking tried and true way of doing the TV, man. Actually, quite enjoyable for what I'm able to watch of what is available on streaming, which is another conversation, I feel, because some things that are like, oh, this is definitely streaming is not streaming. It's very frustrating. It's very interesting going back to mid 90s of like I just watched NYPD Blue the other day. They had an episode, a gay bar owner, a man who owned a gay bar and was also gay himself, was murdered in his office, and the only witness was a trans woman. um
Mm.
and it's a thing of like, oh, I'm waiting for the hate crime. I'm waiting for um
Mm-hmm.
the thing
Especially
by
with
the
those
police.
90s.
I'm waiting for the insensitivity of the police. And I was like, well, there's, and kind of being pleasantly surprised by it mostly, of like
Mm-hmm.
everyone's referring to her as she. They're all using she her pronouns. But then like Dennis Franz's character refers to her as a he she, and I was like, you know what? For the 90s,
That's not the worst thing they could have said.
this is actually pretty good, and that was as bad as it got. And I was like, by the standards of propaganda, not the worst it could be. But you get some real bangers. I watched a DS9 episode of Cisco and Bashir going back to whatever whatever year Deep Space Nine decided that it was, in the basically their homelessness commentary, which was really good and kind of an all time Star Trek episode, two parter, and it's really great. So I'm enjoying this kind of. Another one that I want to mention really briefly is I watched an episode of Mad About You, where Paul
Mm-hmm.
Reiser's character sets up cameras throughout their apartment to be part of like this kind of impromptu documentary segment, and just have it be like a
Interesting.
very like cinema verite, like day in the life, uninterrupted, like 15 minutes, and just being
Mm-hmm.
this the whole episode is them just trying to be normal, and be natural and be on camera. And it's like this episode that is like 31 years old at this point, is both so prescient and so outdated.
Mm-hmm.
Is so We're so far past that. Right.
Yeah.
But that idea of like being on camera, at a moment, and being natural and being like the TikTokification of our lives, and it's like, oh wow,
Mm-hmm.
that's so, again, it's so precious. A very fascinating episode. Paul Reiser and Helen Hunt are great.
I love Helen Hunt.
Helen Hunt is Helen Hunt should have been
She's
in
iconic.
everything.
She should have been way bigger. Like, I just never understood why she didn't blow up more than she did.
She is a
She's
crazy
so
charismatic.
talented.
She's crazy
Yeah.
charismatic. Uh,
She's so good.
She comes on, owns it immediately. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this has just been my little journey into TV. You know, I love watching older TV.
Yeah.
I feel like we assume where it's like, oh, the TV isn't able to do X and Y, or it's not able to be
Mm-hmm.
um, as gay or as feminist or as racially inclusive as I would like it to be. And just seeing like the kind of you know, even in the 90s, the early steps of like a lot of like what is to come is just so rewarding.
Yeah, you talk about the 90s. So I've slowly, ever since Hulu put the entire collection of Law and Order episodes on their service, I've been slowly watching Law and Order from the beginning, because for the longest time you had to literally buy the DVDs if you wanted to watch Law and Order, because for some reason NBC's streaming service only had starting in season like 12 or something like that going forward, and it's just like, why are we missing the first 11 seasons? And so like I've been slowly watching it, and I'm currently at the beginning of season 6, and there was an episode in season 1 that dealt with someone being killed with insulin, and as a diabetic I was like, in the 90s, like this was 1990, and they were doing something about someone using a medication for a diabetic as a weapon against someone who wasn't a diabetic. Like that's diabolical. Like it was very intriguing. But I just wanted to like jump on that because you mentioned you were like watching 90s shows, and I was like, oh, I've been slowly watching Law and Order at night to, you know,
What
try and like
what are
remind
you
myself
watching
of
Law and
those
Order on?
shows. Hulu.
Is that on Hulu? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's on Hulu.
Yeah, this was another thing I wanted to mention. Where like I had to get the DVD from the library. Do you know how embarrassing?
Yeah.
Do you know how embarrassing it
Oh
is?
yeah.
To put a hold on a DVD, have it come to your library branch, and you've gotten the wrong DVD. It's humiliating.
Yep, it's all on Hulu. Just go watch it on Hulu.
Yeah, because I was on Peacock and I was like, why is only why are you doing this to me? You're Peacock. You own the whole goddamn thing.
For the longest time, Dick Wolf had like such a stranglehold on the streaming rights to the first like 10, 15 seasons of that show, which I never understood. But yeah, now Hulu has the whole database. So
Okay. Thank God.
it's very interesting also to go back to the beginning and see when Lenny Brusco went from, what was that show he was on, homicide.
Oh, Homicide: Life
um
in the Streets.
yes, Homicide: Life on the Streets, to being a detective in the precinct for Law and Order, because it like he was not well liked when he first came in, and so it's just like very interesting to watch that dynamic
Yeah.
shift. And also to remind myself that Chris Noth got his start on Law and Order.
Yes. And the season that I'm watching of Law and Order is Chris Noth's last season.
Yeah, yeah.
Like season 5, I think it is.
Yes, he ends up leaving at the end of season 5.
Yeah. Homicide: Life in the Streets, incidentally, another show that I'm going to be watching.
Well, it's also on Hulu.
Oh,
So
is
there
it?
you go.
Oh, good.
It's either on Hulu or HBO. I can't remember. There's one of those two streaming services has it.
Okay.
Hold on, let me search for you real quick, because I know I saw it, because I have it on my. I was like, oh, I've been wanting to watch this for so long, and it's never been on streaming before. Drew is probably going to tune me out because no, this is something that I have been obsessively talking about with my small circle of friends since like September, when I first found out about the show happening, because I'd read the books, but really to anyone who would listen since the end of November. And that is the phenomenon show Heated Rivalry on Canada's Crave and America's HBO Max. Um, it's just, it's very queer. It's very in your face about the queerness, but it's also hockey. There is hockey involved. How much hockey? Well, you just have to watch to find out. No, there's not as much hockey playing, so to speak, as you would think there would be, because it's really about this dynamic of these two star players that from the time they meet, they're 17 years old and they're in a tournament that happens for like high school students who are the best in their country. Um, it's like a juniors Olympics kind of thing. And so like they meet at a competition where Shane Hollander is playing for Team Canada and Ilya Rosanov is playing for Team Russia. And they're 17. Ilya barely knows English. And Shane introduces himself to Ilya, and that's where their story kind of starts to intersect with each other. And then, like 6 months later, is the NHL draft, and they're both drafted. Their first and second picks, respectively. Ilya is the first pick, and he goes to Boston, and Shane is the second pick, and he goes to Montreal. And I did not know this, but the author knows a lot about hockey, and so like elements of the story relate to real life hockey. And so I guess in real life, Montreal, the team from Montreal and the team from Boston are big rivals, and so they made that a canon event in this series as well. And so we go through the next like 10 years of the first 10 years of them knowing each other from 2008 to 2017 ish, almost 2018. And it goes from them being drafted at the same time, the top of their game, and the media immediately says these two players are rivals because they play for rival teams. They're both the best in the field. They obviously can't like each other, which is so awful for them because behind the scenes, they're falling in love with each other. And so we get to see that slow progression of Shane, who is very quiet and reserved and very, very hockey centered, interacting with Ilya, who is very loud and bombastic and very playboy. And he is really good at hockey, but on the surface, it seems like he doesn't take hockey seriously. To him, it's just a means to get away from Russia. And so you see these two characters that are very different in who they are. Kind of realize that they actually don't have that much differences between them as they thought. And it's just so cute to see that slow progression and how it progresses slowly, not because of them, but because of the hockey world that they live in. Because, yes, Ilya comes from Russia, and Russia is very homophobic and it's very dangerous for people to be queer in any kind of way if you live in Russia, especially during this time, but like even to today, like it's even worse today. And so, yeah, that's something that's hanging over Ilya's head that, like, technically I can't be with a man because that could get me hurt in some kind of way if I were to go back to Russia and they know about it. But it also isn't because while he does care, he doesn't because his only ties to Russia are his ailing father and his asshole brother who just wants his money, and just chooses to do drugs and use Ilya's money to continue doing drugs and gambling and all that. And so like Ilya's ties to Russia aren't very deep. So when his father passes, he no longer has that Russia hanging over his head of this is why I can't come out and be open about who I love. It's more of he has to keep his job or he will be forced to go back to Russia, which he doesn't want to do. Because if he loses his hockey contract, he's not a citizen of the United States because there's a weird dynamic between the US and Russia at this time where it's not easy for a Russian citizen to get citizenship in America. And so his only way of having residency is through his job. And so if he loses hockey, he's going to get forced back to Russia, which I wouldn't want to go back to Russia either. I get it, bro. But he doesn't care about people knowing his queerness. Like, that's not his problem. But that is very much Shane's problem. Shane is very quiet and reserved, and he isn't sure of himself in the beginning. He is very, very green and very, I don't know what I am. And so he meets Ilya, and Ilya's very bold. Like, one of their first moments outside of hockey is them in a locker they're in the locker room after doing a photo shoot together, and they're taking a shower. It's a communal shower situation because it's a locker room, whatever. And Shane is staring at like making eyes at Ilya every so often. You know, like that awkward, shy way of doing it. He's making eyes at him, and Ilya plays into it because he's like, "Oh, I see what you're doing," and I feel that way about men. So, like, I'm going to test the waters, and it ends up with them having a sexual encounter in Shane's hotel room later on. And so that's the first time they like ever do anything more than hockey with each other. And Ilya the whole time is very, very dominant, and Shane is very submissive. So it's a show that also does a really good job of showing dom and submissive dynamics in a relationship, in a way that feels very real and authentic. It doesn't feel too, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but either way, it feels very, very real and very respectful. And so we see them slowly progress over over the time periods where Shane starts to really come into himself. He starts to realize, I can't get this guy out of my head. And so eventually they get to a point where, oh, they need a way to communicate because they're from opposing teams and they can't just whisper hotel rooms to each other on the ice. Like, this is good, you know, they get caught. So they end up exchanging phone numbers, and so a part of the show's element is the text messages between them. In Ilya's phone, Shane is saved as Jane, and in Shane's phone, Ilya is saved as Lily, so that their teammates and friends don't know that they're talking to another guy. And it's it's kind of funny because they don't adhere to safe text messages necessarily. They're living on 10 cents and a dream that no one figures them out, because I'm telling you, their text messages to each other are very suggestive and very indicative of it being two men talking to each other. Like, there's an example of, at one point, Ilya texts Shane. He's like, I'm gonna make 9 goals tonight. And Shane's like, why? And he goes, one for each inch of the cock that you want. And it's just like, bro, that is just not you're supposed to be flying under the radar here. That's not how you do it. So Ilya's very much a teasing, playful type of character, and the world sees him as this playboy because he's bisexual. So he can easily float that whole straightness factor by going to the clubs with his teammates and hooking up with girls, and, like, you know, having a different girl on his arm every year, you know, whatever. Like, he can play that part very well. But Shane is gay. He's very, very gay. But he doesn't admit to the fact that he is gay until him and Ilya become so close by the start of their 2016-2017 season that Ilya's like, I'm going to invite you over to my house. Instead of us doing hotel rooms, let's go. Why don't you come to my house in Boston, and we have sex at my house in my bed. And then I'm going to convince you to stay, and you're going to eat a meal with me. It's very romantic, very comfortable, very relationshipy, whereas previously they'd only been hooking up and then leaving. And so it scares Shane to the point that he runs away, and he's like, bye. And it's one of the hardest scenes to watch in the entire show because it makes your heart hurt just from the facial expressions of these actors. And the actor that plays Shane said he hated doing that scene because it made him want to vomit every single take, because he just felt so bad for how Ilya felt after Shane, you know, they're having a really intimate moment. They call each other by their first names for the first time ever. It freaks Shane out, and then he immediately just leaves instead of sitting down and talking to Ilya about it, and where they could have, like, you know, moved past and been like, okay, well, then we'll slow things down or whatever. No, he just books it. And then not 2 minutes later, his teammate JJ is like, hey, Shane, come to a party at this restaurant. I need you to come out tonight. And so Shane's like, okay, fine. He normally doesn't, but he does. And that's where he meets Sophie Nalise's character, Rose. And Rose is this wonderful, wonderful female character who dates Shane long enough to realize he's gay and then has a conversation with him to help him realize, hey, guess what? You're gay. Um, so basically, she helps him come out to himself. He doesn't come out to anybody else. He just comes out to himself and her, obviously. And that's one of the things about this show that I do want to make an aside about is that the female characters in this show are the greatest, well rounded female characters I have ever experienced on a television show, especially one that's centered on gay men or bisexual men, right? Like the show is centered on men, but the women in this show that are the side characters to each of these men are phenomenal. We've got Sophie Nalise playing Rose, who is this actress who 80% of her boyfriends have ended up gay. Okay, girl, you went to theater school. We know, like most of your boyfriends were gay. And then we have Ilya's best friend, who is this girl named Svetlana, who is there for him in Russia when he really needs someone that sees all of him and sees his queerness. And she also clocks him when he's being stupid about Shane, because even though he hasn't told her about Shane, she knows about Shane. Like, for example, there's a scene where they're in a car together and they're just chatting back and forth like friends do. And Svetlana says, are you seeing anyone serious? And he's like, no. She goes, oh, so Jane's not serious. And he kind of just gives her this look. And she's like, you've been texting her for years. I figured she was serious. And then a couple episodes later, when his dad dies and they're at the memorial service for his dad, and he gets in a fight with his brother, she's calming him down and she says, I hope Jane understands how lucky he is. And so we're like, oh, you know that Jane is not a girl. Jane is a guy. And there are other moments where she kind of makes eyes at him in terms of when Shane comes up in a topic of conversation. So, like, we imply that she knows that Shane is important to him. She just hasn't quite come out and said it. And then there's these other two side gay characters, Scott and Kip, who have friends named Maria and Elena, who are badass female characters who deserve their time to shine. All of these women are women of color, except for Sophie Nalise. She is a white woman, but Svetlana is a black woman, and Elena and Maria are Hispanic. And they're just gorgeous, amazing female characters. And I love that. I feel like that's something that really drives the story as well, is that you don't really have any villainous female characters, which is so easy to do in a queer show that is centered on men. Because a lot of times, especially when there's a queer coming of age or a queer awakening of some kind, the trope is to use a woman to help a man find out he's gay and then villainize her, but it doesn't happen. Like Shane, yes, Rose helps Shane realize he's gay, but he was already halfway there. She just kind of coaxed him out. She used hockey to help him like feel comfortable about it, right? Like she's just a nice, good person. And after he tells her, she literally is like, let's stay friends. And then it shows him continuing to communicate with her throughout, talking about the different things that he's struggling with. And so, like, she's just a great female character. And this show, yes, it lasts like 10 years, but it goes so quick. Like, it just feels like it goes so quick, and it's so well done. Episode 5 is hands down one of the best episodes of television I have ever seen in my entire life. And for about 2 weeks after it aired, it was tied for second place in the top rated episodes of IMDb of all time, which is crazy considering how new of a show it was, where the other shows that stood there with it were Game of Thrones, I think a Game of Thrones episode, and Breaking Bad episode. No, 6 Feet Under and Breaking Bad. That's what it was. It was 6 Feet Under and Breaking Bad. So you know that's insane. Like, that's insane just how well done this episode was. Because episode 5 had Shane breaking up with Rose, getting back together with Ilya, confessing to Ilya that he's gay, and Ilya then confessing the information Shane needs to know about his family, but also that the readers or watchers, I should say, need to know about his mother. His father dies. He does this beautiful, like 3-minute monologue in complete Russian to Shane over the phone, where he talks about how his family is just awful and he never wants to come back to Russia. And he ends up confessing how much he loves Shane, but it's in Russian, so Shane doesn't know that he confessed that he loved him. And then right after that speech, he comes back and they play a game against each other, and Shane gets hurt to the point that he's in the hospital. Ilya comes to visit him in the hospital. The side character of Scott wins the Stanley Cup, and he kisses his boyfriend on TV, changing like the trajectory of gay people in hockey, basically. And then Ilya sees that and calls up Shane and immediately says, "I'm coming to your cottage this weekend. We're spending 2 weeks together." And it's just a phenomenal 52 minutes of television. It's just so well done. And the show ends not necessarily on a happy ending, but it's a bittersweet ending. So, like, we know they're together and they're happy with each other, but they still have so many things that are keeping them from being completely themselves, completely, in the open about who they are. And it opens up beautifully for a season 2, which I'm highly anticipating. But yeah, it's really wonderful. And the only other thing I want to talk about with this show is Shane is a canonically identified, undiagnosed autistic man. And so he is portrayed in such a nuanced, subtle way that it just hits so well for people who are autistic and see this character, how he behaves and how he acts, and how there are so many people in his life that are like, you need to adjust how you handle this because it's not correct. But then he's with Ilya, and Ilya never makes fun of him for not understanding a question, missing that what someone is saying is a joke. He folds his clothes before sex, and Ilya finds that very endearing. He only drinks ginger ale because he believes that he needs to take care of his body during hockey, and he can't drink alcohol and he can't do fun things like that, like whatever. Which in my head, I'm like, ginger ale is full of sugar, but okay, bro, whatever makes you feel better about your life, then by all means. And he also has this habit of he can't look people in the eyes for very long. And it's one of those reasons that one of the commentators in one of the television parts of the show states Shane Hollander has a very high hockey IQ, meaning he's very, very good at hockey. He understands hockey. He speaks about hockey very well, but he's not very sociable. And it's because he doesn't know how to talk to people because he's autistic. He doesn't know he's autistic, but he's autistic. And we see this really culminate in the final episode because he's spending time alone with Ilya for the first time ever in their entire relationship. They confess that they love each other. They decide, we're going to do this. We're not just going to be having sex. It's going to be like a full-on relationship. We're actually going to care about each other. We're going to talk about things that aren't, hockey or sex. Like, it's the whole deal. And then his dad shows up at the house and catches them kissing, which forces him to have to come out to his parents. And it's a whole big thing. And he has a full-on meltdown in the front room of his cottage, where he's like, I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do. He's like, I've been lying to my parents for years. And like, he's just like freaking out. And Ilya just stands there and he's like, Shane, calm down. They're your parents. They'll talk to you. Like, just go over there. Let's go talk to them. And so he does. And when he comes out to them, his mom is kind of reserved, but then Shane and her have a conversation alone outside. And he says to her, I'm sorry. I tried really hard, but I couldn't help it. And she immediately was like, oh my God, you don't need to apologize. She goes, I'm sorry that I made it. If I ever did anything that made you not comfortable to come out, she goes, please forgive me. And it's one of those like coming out scenes that's very well done. It's not over the top. It's not overly dramatic. It's just quiet and subtle. It's filled with love. And you understand that there's this different dynamic between Shane and his mother than Shane and his father, because Shane is part Asian, and that is a very big part of his identity and how he moves through the hockey world, because hockey doesn't have many Asian players. And his mom is where he gets his Asianness from. And so him and his mom have that underlying disappointment, or that underlying fear of disappointing the Asian rep part of his legacy, right? So like it's a two-folded kind of confession slash coming out slash forgiveness moment of Shane's apologizing not just for being gay, but also because his gayness interacts with his ability to be the perfect Asian athlete. And so like it's just so nuanced and so layered, and there's just so much subtle emotion going on that it's just a beautiful scene between Christina Chang and Hudson Williams. That chef's kiss, just total chef's kiss. They didn't have many heavy hitters in this show because they had a shoestring budget, and they couldn't afford big name people, but they got Dylan Walsh to play Shane's father and Christina Chang to play his mother, and those are the two most perfect castings I've ever heard in my entire life. They're perfectly perfect, and it really shows in that difference of dynamic between Shane and his two parents. And that's kind of where the show ends, is with him confessing these things to his parents, and then them finding a way forward, basically. And it's just something that's just made me feel good for the last 3 to 6 months of my life. I've just been watching this show so much because it is one of those feel good shows that makes you feel seen, it makes you feel respected, it makes you feel um like you are loved and you're not alone. And it's just, they do such a good job with the writing and the portrayals of these characters, and nothing is seen as a joke or a caricature in any kind of way. It's just a really, really good queer representation show. So I will shut up.
I love that. Now it's time for me to be myself. Um, so, I watched. I finally watched Heat of Rivalry over the last week.
I'm proud of you.
Yes. And it is good. I am significantly cooler than I would say 99% of the population alive. And I don't want. I want us to focus on it is good. I don't want us to lose sight of that, right?
Listen, you can have all the opinions you want.
It is good. Yeah, I feel, and perhaps this is merely in comparison with everyone else. I feel very underwhelmed by it, which is not to say, again, I just want to stress this. Because someone might send a bomb to my house. I don't think it's bad in any way, shape, or form. Okay.
Fair enough.
But I think I did enjoy it. I think it's, it's well acted, it's well written, it's well directed. It checks off all the boxes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I felt detached from it for most of its run. I think that the best episodes, far and away, and I do mean far and away, are episodes 3 and 5. 5 for very obvious reasons, because it is an episode that kind of unqualifyingly slaps.
Yeah.
And episode 3, as much as I enjoy the relationship between Shane and Ilya throughout the show, the relationship between Scott and Kip feels infinitely more real and realized to me.
Fair enough.
Whereas the rest of the show, while good, at times feels like a fantasy. Which is not in and of itself a bad thing, and is often not a bad thing, right? Within the context of heated rivalry. But in terms of episode 3 and Scott and Kip, I think it's just often more satisfying, and even on a different note, and I can only come at this as who I from the position that I have, the conversations of Shane's autism, right? If you or others online did not tell me that he was autistic, I would not know. Right? And I don't know who that's a failing of. Because to me, as someone who only watched the show and only watched the show casually at that, feels more like a headcanon, and that's not necessarily an insult. So a lot of Hero Rivalry is like, oh yes, this is good. I feel more at arm's length of it than I would say most of the people watching it, and most of the fans that are very energetic about it.
Yeah, I mean that's fair.
And
I will.
I'm not interested in yucking anyone's yum, right? Even if I were
No,
inclined,
of course not.
even if I were.
No, I do want to make a statement about the Shane autism thing. Hudson Williams himself actually said, I portrayed Shane from my experiences as the child of an autistic father. He's like, I use some of the mannerisms that my father has and put them into Shane because I read Shane and I immediately was like, oh, he's autistic. And I talked to Rachel and I talked to Jacob and they're like, yes, he's autistic. And so, like, I think some people don't catch it, not because it's not realized, it's because he's undiagnosed. So therefore it's not explicitly stated. And so, and it's in his autism is more subtle. And so people don't always pick up on the things that are like, oh yeah, that's inherently autistic. And his desire to have control on his food is like the biggest indicator. I think yes, it can be blended into, okay, he's an athlete, whatever, but it's more than that. It's very much about control. When he's upset or uncomfortable, he's like, can I have a ginger ale? He needs ginger ale to like calm him down, like whatever. So like, I understand your critique. I'm just giving a little more
right
insight to whatever, because you're a casual viewer. Yes, I understand that. I also find it very interesting that you're like, Scott and Kip is very much more realistic, and Shane Nilly as a fantasy, and I think maybe it's because I did more research into what the culture is of hockey, to be like, no, I feel like Scott and Kip is very much a fantasy and Shane and Ilya is very realistic, because hockey is a very homophobic sport, extremely homophobic. So for Scott to be like, I'm just gonna go out on the ice and kiss my boyfriend, it was just like, that's a fantasy. That's a fantasy right there.
I think I mean outside of the scope of hockey, right? In a like, hey, we're watching in the terms of characters in a love story, right? In terms of people that exist, it's something that feels real, and something that outside of a sports context,
I guess, but I feel like with this show, it's something that you can't really take it out of the context of hockey, because hockey is very much that third person in the room at all times. Because hockey is the setting, hockey is the villain, hockey is that thing looming over them at all times. And so, like, I feel like you can't really take the hockey out of the element. But that's just me. That's just my opinion. You're not wrong in your opinion either. I just found it very interesting that you were. I just found it very interesting that you were like, Scott and Kip is the relationship that I really liked, and it's like, okay, you're not going to get much more of them at any other season because they're pretty much realized, like,
Right.
because this is the Shane and Ilya show, right? It is Shane and Ilya show. But that's not to say I hate Scott and Kip because I don't. I don't hate them. I think they're adorable. Um, they're just not my favorite. Between the two couples, they're not my favorite. I really do like Shane and Ilya. And maybe that's because I do relate to Ilya's family dynamic because I grew up with a very overbearing, abusive parent. So I understand that element of who he is and why he's so closed off and kind of an asshole to some people. And I also relate to Shane in so many other ways. Like there are so many things about Shane that I watched with Karen, and she was like, "You are Shane Hollander minus the hockey," and I'm like, "Yes, yes, I am. I'm aware of this." So it's very interesting. I'm glad. I'm glad you watched it. I'm proud of you for watching it. Um, and I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. Trust me, it might seem like it that you're like in the minority, but really there are plenty of people that were like, it's okay. I didn't hate it, but it's okay. Yeah, it's
Right.
fine.
For our main review this week, we're talking about Percy Jackson and the Olympian season 2,
Yes.
which has had some time since it came out, but we kind of
Yes.
fully missed the window on this. And we talked a bit about the first season when it originally came out, and I'll say for me, I quite enjoyed it. You know, I think season 2 kind of has the same problem by no fault of its own that the first season had, which is it is constantly being compared and contrasted with the movies.
I saw more compare contrasting between it and the book, but yeah.
Right. I
I
mean,
mean,
there's always gonna
sentiment is the same. Sentiment is
yeah.
the same
There's
though.
always gonna be that with a book of some kind. Whenever you're adapting something, but since it had already been 2 of the books had already been adapted into the movies, there was so much of that. Well, in the movies they did this. This is how they adapted it
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Which I am thankful that they won't have that problem going forward.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed this season. You know, I enjoyed um the addition of Percy. Not Percy, but Tyson.
I was gonna say, Tyson, my sweet baby angel,
Yeah.
the person that I was in love with from the moment we met him. Yes, yes, yes. I literally in my notes for rewatching this weekend, I was like, Tyson, I love you even more rewatching this season. Like you're just so sweet, and he does add a nice dynamic to Percy. You know, like I feel like he makes Percy a little more level-headed.
Yeah.
Because Percy gets in his own way too much. Um, love the guy, but he definitely falls into the trap of I need to save everyone, and if I can't save everyone, then it's going to be a failure. And it's like, bro, saving 2 out of 3 people is better than no people. Like, calm down. Tyson definitely strengthens that weakness of Percy's.
Yes. And then another unexpected strength I thought this season was Clarice, who was a character I did not care for in the first season, and was just fully realized in season 2. It was so compelling. I think that actress is really good. I think she's grown into the role really well, which is both kind of a bug and a feature of the way that some of these actors have aged in the 2 years since the first season came out. Where oftentimes it feels like Percy is too old for the way that
because he's supposed to be like what, 13?
Yeah, and he feels fully like a 17-year-old. Like there are times that Percy feels like he should be the same age as Clarice, and I don't think they're supposed to be.
I'm not certain, but I think you're correct. I don't think they're supposed to be about the same age, and it feels that way too frequently.
Yeah. Percy feels like Clarice's contemporary, and Clarice, I think, should be at least a couple of years older than him.
I think the only person that doesn't fall into the trap of not feeling or looking older than they should be is Annabeth. Like, she literally still looks like she should be 13 or 14 years old, and she acts like it too. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of that is saved by the fact that she is very short.
yes, it is helped. It is helped, and she doesn't. Her face hasn't like lost that childish roundness
Mm-hmm.
that young teenagers still have. So I think that helps it too.
Yeah. Whereas the actors for Percy and Clarice have 100% lost that. Like, if you go back and look at like season 1 Clarice versus season 2 Clarice, it's like that's a fully different person. That's just
Yeah, I want to see. I want to look at a picture again just because I can't remember. Oh my god, yes. Like, yeah, yeah. She's a grown woman now. Like, what?
But no, I think Clarice's stuff in this season is really good. Like her navigating like how do I have a friend? It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, super enjoyed that. And then like Percy and Annabeth's dynamic, shall we say? I don't want to say relationship because we're still. I understand very early in a slow burn, which does not feel slow or burned at all. Feels like,
Hmm.
hey guys, we have arrived.
Yeah.
It's so funny to listen to book readers and be like, Percy did not know for many years that he and Annabeth liked each other. It's like, are you sure about that?
Are you sure about that? Because it sure feels like it.
It feels like, baby, we are
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, especially in this season, like the amount of times that he almost has a full-blown panic attack because something's happened to Annabeth, and it's just like, sir, I think you're in love with her.
But yeah, I think it's very good. I think the pacing for Percy Jackson, I think, is still wonky. Like
Yeah, I was gonna say it takes a little too long to really catch its stride,
yeah,
which I think was a problem in season one as well. Um,
yeah,
so they're still trying to figure that out somehow.
yeah, and 9 times out of 10, I am really glad about the runtime of each episode. Like 30 to 40 minutes,
Hmm.
I'm like, oh yeah, that's good. The last episode, I was like, no, this needs to be longer. What are you doing?
Yeah, that episode was like over and done in 2.5 seconds, and I was like, I'm sorry, run that back again. We need more time. We need to sit with this a little bit longer.
Yeah, which again I think feeds into the pacing problem of the season.
Yeah.
Where the last episode has to be like, and now we got to deal with all of the god shit. It's like, well, you needed to. We got to do the war now. It's like, well, you needed to do this either earlier or make the episode longer. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, the final episode doesn't work as well as I would like it to.
And honestly, the cliffhanger that they leave it on, I don't care for. I'm like, you could have set this up so much better.
Mm-hmm.
But instead it feels completely out of left field, and it doesn't sit right. And so I'm like, I would have been better off if we hadn't put this in here, but okay. Unless you're going to put the work in to make it have that deep impact that they were going for, and that is not what happened.
As much as I like the Thalia reveal in the
Yeah.
finale, a lot of that feels reverse engineered. Thalia was turned into a tree. Here's why. What's the reason we got other than Zeus? Okay, here's what we got. Which again, I can only come at this as someone who has not read the books.
Yeah. I read the books when I was a young teenager, so I'm coming at it from a vague remembrance of the plots. And so it's like, it just wasn't executed to the best way they could have executed it, because I feel like it felt like an afterthought that Chiron was just like, hey, guess what? I'm going to tell you the real thing that happened that night,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm telling you in the last second. And I feel like that's something that should have been revealed around the time that we were talking about Annabeth's backstory. because I feel like that would have made a little more sense so that we knew going in, okay, this is the and then it built up to Percy starting to have dreams and it being realized that the person in his nightmares is Talia, and that she's actually on the side of Kronos, not on the side of Zeus. And like, it's just something that could have been executed over a longer period of episodes versus just crammed into the last 30 minutes of the season.
I think another big flaw with the season is I don't think it's adequately explained um why this why this rebellion is happening, and the
Uh-huh.
seemingly total disregard for people that should be their friends.
Yeah.
Like, I am completely good with killing them, and I don't think that is contextualized or explained nearly as well as it should be. It's like all of
Yeah.
your plans do hinge on killing these people you went to camp with. That feels like a problem. I don't know. I feel like maybe we should have a conversation about that. And the show, I think, glosses over that tremendously.
Extremely does. One of the I will say one of the stronger points, I still wish that we could have spent a little more time there just because I am a big fan of the Odyssey, and so like diving into some of those elements of Odysseus and his journey and stuff. But the episode where they spend it at Cersei's spa of
Mm-hmm.
like self-awareness and self-actualization or whatever the hell she calls it. Anyways, I feel like that's one of the strongest quote unquote side quests of the season. It's very well done, and Rosemary DeWitt is phenomenal as Cersei. Like,
So
she's
good.
just so compelling and so charismatic that I could see why people fall into her trap. Like, I see it, I can understand it. But I also enjoyed seeing Percy and Annabeth outsmart her, or at least try to outsmart her, right? Like, they do
Yeah.
a really good job. And considering they're quote unquote canonically 13 years old, that's pretty amazing. Like, but I really loved when Annabeth, you know, was threw those pills in to undo the spell on the guinea pigs, and we find out that the other guinea pigs are pirates, and
Oh
one of
yeah.
them, the one that had called himself Edward, he turned out, he's like, yeah, Blackbeard. And I'm like, oh, there's a Blackbeard reference. Like, I'm just like, I am in love with this. This is hilarious. It was just so well executed, and I felt the cinematography was really well done as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just like, Rosemary DeWitt, perfect casting. Perfect casting.
So good. I'm really excited for some of the castings for next season of like Daphne Keene as Artemis and Aphrodite.
Oh, and Ming Na Wen is Hera.
Oh yes.
Mm-hmm. And Jennifer Beals as Demeter. Demeter, is that how you say that?
Yeah.
I don't fucking remember. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beater.
Yep. I'm I'm very excited about Ming Na Wen because she's one of my absolute favorite actresses of all time. And so I'm like, when they announced her, I was just like, yes,
Yes.
perfection. You know, you understood the assignment. Like, it's so well done.
It's so good.
So excited. Yeah, I also do enjoy when they bring in, they brought in Athena briefly for a moment, and when they bring in Poseidon for a moment. I could give two shits about Lin Manuel Miranda, so I didn't care about his little cameo. Um, but I really do enjoy the actor they picked for Poseidon because I think he does a
Yeah.
really good job. And I love that dynamic of him being more realized as a parental figure to Percy, while also finally acknowledging Tyson and saying, "Hey, Tyson, I have a really good job for you that you're specially trained for." And he's like, "Absolutely, Dad, I'll follow you anywhere." And it's just a very sweet scene between a father and his sons that I really appreciated them adding in.
It's really great. Yeah, he's so good as Poseidon. Just kind of capturing like the sadness of the sea, you know?
Yeah.
And like
Hmm.
personifying that, I think is really great.
and of course Ares coming and making an appearance. And I do, speaking of Ares, when he gives her the ship with all the undead losers, quote unquote, and one of them
The
works at
Blockbuster worker.
Blockbuster. I was just like, wait a minute, is that guy from Blockbuster? I paused and rewound and looked at his shirt, and I was like, my God, he is. That's
He is.
hilarious. I was like, it's playing on the term loser and giving it a different element. I was just like, that's hilarious.
Really,
I loved it. I loved it so much.
it's really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved Ares' scene with Clarice.
Mm-hmm.
Which is both like, it's this really interesting blend of like threatening and
I'm proud of you. Yeah.
a weird I'm proud of you and comforting of like, hey, if this doesn't work out, you got nowhere to go. Which is both a threat and also a sheer acknowledgement of fact.
Yeah.
Which like is later contextualized into that. And it's like, that's such a good father-daughter scene, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And speaking of other father daughters, we have to talk about Courtney B. Vance taking over for Lance Reddick as Zeus, which is not, I wasn't as convinced in it, but that's not Courtney B. Vance's fault. It's more that Lance Reddick left such a big shoe to fill that it's hard to take over that role from him.
Yeah, listen,
I think he did a decent job, but yeah.
Yeah, the problem is only Lance Reddick can Lance Reddick, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
He has such a specific timbre, or he had such a specific timbre. He had such a way of speaking, of just like words rolling off of his tongue that I think was just so essential for Zeus. Of like every word that he says, like you go back and watch him on like Lost or Fringe, and every word is like, you're telling me things. This is also possibly a threat.
Yeah. Yep. Oh my God, especially in Fringe.
Yeah.
Like Fringe especially, you were like, I don't know if I should like or trust this guy.
And I think that was just so big for Zeus, right? Of like, anything this guy says is, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it. Which I think Courtney B. Vance isn't as adept at. Like Courtney B. Vance is an all-time great actor, and that's without contention. But being able to dance in the grays like Lance Reddick did, it's just not his vibe. So what we get is like a Zeus that is just very different, and I think a lot more pat, you know, like a lot more archetypal to, oh, that's Zeus.
Yeah,
which is fine. Again, is nothing against Courtney B. Vance.
No, absolutely not. He's doing the best he can, and it's a decent job. But yeah, it's very hard to come in to a role from a different actor, especially if that previous actor has passed away. If it's a situation of they just decided to recast, then it's a little easier, but it's so much harder when you have that, oh, this actor isn't here because they died, not because we let go of the contract. Like,
right. Yeah. What, and I think it's also made worse that it's not even like noticeably Courtney B. Vance, you know? Like it's not like a lot of like, when I think of Vance, a lot of it is like People versus OJ or stuff like that. That tends to be like his brand. And this is just
Law and Order.
Yeah. Yes. And this is just not in that same wheelhouse. This is
his wheelhouse. Yeah. Yep. Was it a decent person to pick to replace Lance Reddick? Yes. I appreciate the effort. I just think that it's going to take a little more time sitting with him playing the role versus one little scene for him to really feel comfortable in it.
I also think it's not helped by the fact that the scene is lit like shit.
Oh my God. I felt like I was back in the world of Teen Wolf. Like I couldn't see anything.
At what point did we decide that we don't know how to shoot in the dark?
I don't know.
Like, when did that happen?
Well, it was definitely a problem in the 2010s with MTV, so it's been going on for some time.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, nope, it's a great show. This season was really decent. I didn't think I could hate Luke more, and then this season happened, and I'm like, I do not like this guy. He is such a weasel.
Yeah, he just sucks.
Yeah, Tyson was definitely my favorite guy. I just really loved. I love that scene towards the beginning of the season where he builds a bomb and like that helps them escape or whatever, and he's like, "What? Why didn't you stay with them if you enjoyed spending time with those quote unquote monsters? Why didn't you stay with them?" He goes, "Because you're you and you're my family, and those guys kind of suck, you know." Like he's like, "I built a bomb because that's something I'm good at."
Yep. Yep.
He's just so lovable.
Yeah.
So lovable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'd nominate Clarice as my MVP for, honestly. If you're going Tyson, I
Yeah.
think I'd go Clarice.
Yeah. That's fair. She would be my second pick because she's pretty badass.
I think she was great this season. Like a full trajectory from a character I did not care for to just being very cool.
Because I think us getting the chance to sit with her a little bit more this season helps, because we see that vulnerability in her where she just really just wants to be a success. She wants to be worthy of being the child of Ares, right? Like she just wants to prove that she's a winner. And it's so hard for her because she's going up against all these boys that are perceived as being stronger and better than her, but really she is cunning and quick and smart. It's just no one gives her a chance. And this season people gave her a chance, and we really got to see just how much of an asset she is to have on your team.
I mean, like I think one of my favorite moments from the season of her was like the scene when Annabeth asked her not to bring along Percy, and she just has this look of like, well, this sucks.
Because she definitely wanted to bring Percy. She's like, he's smart and good in the water.
Yeah, and she gives him like this apologetic look, and she's like, well, this blows.
I also liked at the very end where she's like, after they've completed their quest and like, you know, it's in that kind of sunshiny area of the story, and she's kind of standing in front of him and she's not really sure what to say, and he goes, just say shut up Jackson, and she goes, okay, shut up Jackson.
Yeah, I love her.
Because yeah, she really just wants to feel like she matters to somebody. And I think Percy really taking her on this season and saying, I believe in you and you are worthy of us having you on our team, really helped her confidence and made her a stronger character.
Totally. Eagerly await season 3. It sounds like we won't have to wait as long as we did season 1 to 2, as we will for season 2 to 3. So I'm excited for that. Hopefully we get it like in December like we did the last 2 seasons. Even if I personally hate that. And I'm on the record as hating that.
Yeah.
Fucking Fallout.
Fuck you, Fallout.
Dumbasses.
That's definitely a show we need to talk about, but that's neither here nor there.
Oh, that was another great season.
Yes.
But that's it for this week. Next week we're going to be talking about Scrubs, the return of Scrubs, for our main review, which will be a lot of fun. I've already watched a little bit of it. I quite enjoy it.
Nice.
I will say it's funny. Over the last week, watching people from the pit be mad at Ogilvy for the bring a fat person to the zoo, where there is that exact plot point on Scrubs designed to make JD feel bad about himself.
Yeah.
It's like, boy, how times have changed. I was just thinking about that earlier. It's like a scene only designed to be like, JD, you should be tougher. It's like, wow, boy. It's rough. It's just rough. But until next week, Mads, where can we find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at DorothyNYC89 or on Tumblr at MadsWorld15. I kind of don't really go anywhere else anymore.
And you can follow me on Twitter. I made a new one. I deactivated my old one and made a new one as a lark, and now I am invisible. But come find me at _Drew Koenig. One day I will find the person who has at Drew Koenig, and I'm going to ruin their life. Because he is a bad person. But more importantly, he took the name I want, and he's a bad person. And you can also follow me on Blue Sky at Drew Koenig. You can follow the podcast at Not a TV Pod on all of our social media platforms: Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, Tumblr, TikTok. You can find these handles for all of those at our link tree at linktree.com/NotATVPod. Which again has all our social media handles plus our Discord, which I swear to God I will pay attention to. You can email us at nowthatvpodcast@gmail.com with any thoughts, comments, and questions you may have about the show. Send us any listener questions there. And you can find previous episodes of the podcast on Apple and Spotify, along with whatever other podcatching device you use. Leave us a review and subscribe. Maybe every little bit helps. Who can say in the age of AI? You can also find our Libsyn feed at libsyn.com/NotOnTVPod. It has our full directory up there with all our episodes. Until next week, please remember, as always and forever, don't go in the ocean. It's none of your business. Goodbye.
Goodbye.